Planning Commission meeting to order this Wednesday, December the 20th at 6 o'clock. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairwoman Amanda Jackson Denmark.
Here.
Vice Chairman Charlie Whitmore.
Present.
Commissioner Michael Brock.
Here.
Commissioner Rich Delcor. Commissioner Lydia DePaul. Commissioner Jim Flynn.
Here.
Commissioner Jason Stewart.
Okay. Notice regarding adjournment. The Planning Commission will not hear new items after 9:30 p.m. unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which have not been heard before 9:30 p.m. may be continued to the next regular meeting or a special meeting date as determined by the commission members. Notice regarding public comments. Every member of the public who is recognized to speak shall address the chairman and, in speaking, avoid disrespect to the commission, staff, or other members of the meeting. State your name and address when speaking for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. May I have an adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
May I have an adoption of the minutes from November the 15th? A second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comments for the items not on the agenda. Do we have those?
We have 2 comments for items on the agenda, but they'd like to speak ahead of time.
And there's no one before? Okay. Do we have any old business? No old business.
No.
New business, Compass Commons.
Hang on. They wanted to speak before the item agenda, is what you
They
said.
want to speak ahead of time.
Oh, I'm sorry, for this particular one?
No.
I was gonna,
They don't want to wait till the end of the meeting. They want to just do it now.
okay, well then we'll do that. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Okay, well, give me the first one.
All right, Denise Hollywood.
Chairman and committee members, my name is Denise Hollywood. I live at 27 Fording Court in Hampton Lake. I'm a retired Air Force officer and veteran. I'm a local business owner. And in preparing for this meeting, I looked back over my military career at how many prior moves I had made, and that was 18. So when I picked this place to finally settle down in, it was with the intent of never moving again. I also sought a veteran and military-friendly community, and that is what I found in Bluffton and in Hampton Lakes. However, this apartment complex is making me think about decisions I never thought I would be thinking about, like selling my dream house that I bought a mere 2 years ago. And if I don't sell, what kind of damage is this complex going to do to the value of my home? Measures need to be taken to protect not only veterans, but all residents alike. Tall, blocking fencing, a significant buffer of trees, garbage and unsightly utilities out of sight. Without proper mitigation, the actions that this apartment complex are going to cause in our community can spread very quickly within our veteran community, turning what is currently a friendly place to live into one not so friendly. I appreciate learning more and hearing more about what the complex will actually be and how it will affect our community, and I thank you for this opportunity to make comments.
Another one?
Heather Harkins.
Hello and good evening. Heather Harkins, 58 Fording Court, speaking in regard to item 5 on your agenda. Mr. John Reed entered this statement into Hampton Lake Directors Meeting minutes in August 2017, 4 months after he had reacquired the 35 Fording Court parcel. Quote, "It isn't the profit that motivates my team. The Reed team loves doing what they do. They are excited as they witness an idea, a vision come to life." End quote. Once upon a time, the arbors at Fording Court in Hampton Lake was a vision. We have come to life as a mixed-age community where my kids call neighbors grandparents. The looming pines circling all around us form an arena of trees that shade sun, host kids outside until dark, conversations and street parties with neighbors, and lots of dog walking. If you have not been to our street, I personally invite you to visit because there is nowhere else in Bluffton like it. The buildable land on the 35 Fording Court parcel is between a rock and a hard place. The rock being our existing Fording Court community to the south, and the hard place being the power lines to the north. where, to state the obvious, no one actually wants to live or raise a family. But barring a visit from the ghost of Christmas future to unscrooge this situation, Bluffton will begin housing people right up next to those power lines. Yet as a planning commission, you can help maintain the development that has come to life on Fording Court. How can you ensure the undisturbed buffer won't disappear? Please do not let us lose that buffer. It was marketed to us, established in the master plan. A billboard on the land parcel identifies the buffer as well as an additional 30-foot setback from the edge of the buffer. There must be a setback of at least 30 feet for the undisturbed buffer to not become a false promise. We need your help to mitigate the adjacent land uses. For instance, the dumpster can be moved farther away from us to the northeast of the development, where it will be more serviceable and functional. The ponds can be minimized and kept wooded and fenced, as at River Ridge Academy, to preserve trees for screening and to negate basking space for alligators. If garages are actually needed, they can all assemble along the south of the property to block car lights from reaching Fording Court. Finally, a fence should be constructed for the safety of apartment and Fording Court residents. Other neighborhood commercial property at Fording Lake already is fenced. 35 Fording Court should be too. Without a fence, the undisturbed buffer will degrade over time. Kids will shortcut. Injury and liability can be avoided with a fence. In summary, the Buckwalter PUD agreement should not be a mechanism to rip apart the aesthetics of existing communities where lives have been built for the sake of making money off of new ones. That simply makes it a mechanism for fraud with the town comprehensive plan as its accomplice. Please help protect the community of your neighbors that exists on Fording Court today. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there's no more public comment right now. Okay. So for new business, for Compass Commons Certificate of Appropriateness for Highway Corridor Overlay. Kevin.
Good evening, Planning Commission. Thank you for having us up here this evening. We are here for a request for a certificate of appropriateness in the highway corridor. This is for the two restaurants, two restaurant buildings with approximately 5,125 square feet and 875 square feet of outdoor dining space, as well as the necessary infrastructure. The property is located in the New Riverside Village, and here is the site plan of the site. To the side here, you see Highway 46, the Parkside Commons, the entrance. This is in that newly constructed New Riverside Village, and it's the closest to, it's the furthest away parcel from the traffic circle. Here is the first floor plans. I'm just going to run through this relatively quickly, and then hopefully everyone had an opportunity to read through the staff report. So here's the restaurant floor plans, the roof plans, and one of the items I've kind of highlighted here in yellow is just that it was just a Scribner's error that we wanted to make sure that was just updated, that there is a pitched roof there, but it didn't have the pitch on it. We believe it is the 412 pitch roof, but just mislabeled by accident. These are the facing Parkside Commons elevations here. You can see the corner up here, which way it's going. This is facing the opposite side with the adjacent property, which is formerly known as the South Carolina Forestry Commission parcel. Other elevations facing along May River Road, and then the rear of the development facing more towards the landings development. Just some of the elevations. First, the separations of it, you can see this is that second building. Again, the elevations, because of the angle of the building, they just didn't turn out. They didn't look right if you tried to just get a full frontal view of it. Color renderings, the materials and all the colors, they have been reviewed. Here's the color board. They're all consistent and in compliance. Again, additional renderings from the sides. Additional cross sections. I'm not going to go through these. These were all part of your packet. One item that we did notice, and it might just be just an elevation error, is just making sure that the dumpster enclosure, the height of it, just be a little bit taller. It's at 5'7", just to make sure that they have sufficient height to screen that. Mechanical details, additional renderings of the site. These are all in the packet. The landscape plan, we went through this thoroughly with the applicant. The plant schedule, obviously not going to go through all this, and it's very difficult to read on the screen, but it's all in your packet. One item is the lighting plan. We did go through this. There was one or two areas where it was below the minimum requirements. From a staff level, and we have it as one of the conditions, we felt that it is appropriate. We just want your consideration for that. And then also dealing with the actual lights themselves, since LED lights are not listed in that allowed lighting. We just asked for the deviation that you do allow for the LED lighting, which we have done so in the past. The review criteria, met these criteria. This evening, your actions are to approve with any conditions, to deny the application by the applicant. And I'll just kind of briefly go through these with some of our recommendations. I talked about that 8-foot foundation planting. They're at 5 feet, just shifting the building over to make sure that they meet that requirement. The determination about the lighting, that while it does not meet that minimum requirement, we felt that is appropriate overall, as well as the LED lights, allowing the LED lights. The shed roof, this was the Scribner's error that we referred to, is just making sure that that shed roof pitch is shown on there. Other items include letters from the declarant, that the final approval of the COFA is with the final development plan must be approved first. And then, of course, sign permits are required separate from this review process. Happy to answer any questions. I know the applicant is here. Mr. Stowers, there you are right there. If you have anything for him.
Kevin, if you could just back up 1 second to the previous page.
This one right here?
Yeah, point number 1 actually needs to say east side and north side, because the north side is only 5 feet.
Say that again?
The Highway 46 side
Yeah.
is only 5 foot,
Yes.
according to the drawing, so it's not just the east side, it's the north side.
I think, I will check, but I think when we say the east side, that we were referring to that side, east side of the building.
Because the side in the back with the parking is 5.2. So
Okay.
there are two different areas.
I got you.
So maybe we just, when we get to that point, if we do approve it, we say 8 feet all around.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
Would the applicant like to speak towards the project, or do you want to?
I'm Steve Stowers with Architecture 101. I was the architect on this project. Just wanted to speak to the clearances around the building. We've had a number of opportunities to present the project to you. One of the things that we talked about at our last meeting was, in a lot of ways, this is trying to put a rectangle in a triangular plot. And so we get a little squeezed. And so in some locations, yes, we are short of that 8-foot barrier, but in other places we have well over 20 feet of foundation buffer. And so we worked really hard to keep the 8-foot consistent along the main, what we consider the main front of the building. I know 46 is technically the front, but I think the building is barely visible from 46 with the existing forested buffer. So we have kept a 5-foot buffer there, and then we specifically heavily planted that buffer, that 5 foot, so that it wouldn't just be your typical foundation buffer. We planted with camellias and podocarpus, so it would feel like a very significant foundation buffer. And then, in the other areas, I mean, we've got 20 feet of foundation buffer in a lot of places around the building. So we're just tight in a couple of places, and that's just the nature of a triangular plot.
Commission's heard me say this before, and I'll say it again. It is a minimum of 8 feet all the way around. If you can't meet it, you can make the building smaller or move the building, in my opinion. I'm one of 5 tonight, but that's a requirement we have that we hold everybody to.
I
I understand your argument, however.
All right, with that, do you have any other comments or? is that-
No, I think
Okay. Okay.
Kevin did a fantastic job presenting.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I'm sure we have a couple. Do we want to, anybody want to start off with any questions? Lydia, you want to start?
Sure. Just on the foundation planting, is it not possible to just shift everything to the left of the page 3 feet?
What ends up happening is as you shift it this way, it starts to take away. Now, I think we can actually shift, and this is all at your all's discretion about if the 3 foot deficiency on what is the north side.
Kevin, do you want to pull up the plan, the site plan? That way we all are talking the same language.
Yep. Either one of those will work. Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect. So we could make an additional foundation buffer here. What it'll end up doing is it pushes these two corners of this a little bit too close to this side. We're really working hard to get 8 feet across here. So if you guys are content with having two smaller portions of the building within that 8-foot buffer, then we can just slide it over. And it's a relatively small change to the project.
So how close would it be?
So right now, both of those corners are right on 8 feet.
So if you moved it all over,
It'd be about 7.
Sounds like that building needs to be 3 feet narrower. Or 2.8 feet narrower.
what else? Steve?
On the lighting, what's the rationale behind the discrepancies for the guidelines versus what's presented? Or what are the challenges to?
I actually think a couple of them, they can just be slid down, and then that would only leave one deficiency, which is down at what we're calling the access road, or the master development road that attaches to the adjacent parcel. And I think that is more appropriately lit with the street lighting that's currently done throughout the master development, as opposed to our lighting.
Okay.
Even though it is our property, it's their easement.
My other question is, just for a safety perspective, is it possible to get some lights that don't leave the dumpster with no foot candles?
Well, and I think that will actually happen if we switch. One of these is a lighting plan. Maybe it's not. Was it in here?
There you go.
Yeah, there we go. If we take this one right here and slide it closer to the dumpster, I think that will help.
Okay.
And the other thing is, I would say, this plan is the site lighting plan for just the overall lighting. It doesn't take into account all the building lighting that's on the building.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Jim, do you have anything?
Yeah, just as Charlie indicated earlier, can the building be moved a little bit?
But then he's saying then
You're gonna impact.
the other foundation.
It's just a very tight.
Then you go back to Charlie's point of then the building should have been smaller, taken into account. Anything else?
I'm going to side with Charlie on the foundation. I think that May River Road side is important. So whatever you need to do to meet the requirements on that foundation. Also, looking at the dumpster screening and just, there's a pocket that's a little bit open, so look at that. It's along a trail, so just look and see if you can add a little bit more material around that dumpster so
On the
it's not
landscape plan.
visible.
Charlie, do you want to say your piece? Okay, I do have a question. And maybe you can navigate this for me on the elevation, the May River Road elevation. Where do those stacks come up for the pizza ovens?
They are now. We have moved the pizza ovens. All of the venting is on the backside.
Okay, so tell me where
all
the
of that will be on this. And again, it's complicated because let's go to a roof plan.
Go ahead to the roof line. I just want to verify that nothing's going to be shown on May
I
River
can commit
Road.
to you there is.
I know we talked about this
There will be no
before.
stacks on the.
But I just
46
didn't
up.
understand with the floor plan, how did you get those stacks to go the other way?
They're not dealing with grease. They're just vents. They're just heat
So
vents.
they're going to go up and where do they come out on the roof?
They'll be
Is that where that
below the roof
exhaust
line.
thing is? Like
that?
on the roof plan?
No, that's the grease hood. I do not have them shown on here, but I feel 100% confident. We have a whole attic space up there that we can
I would
get
feel
in there.
comfortable if you would show them on there. I just want to make sure that that's not on May River Road and we don't see anything coming up higher than we anticipate. And has all I'm assuming you've already gone through mechanicals, so all the clearances are good up there?
Actually, based on that, let me make the comment we've made to other applicants recently. It is a requirement that those mechanicals stay under the visual barrier to the point where they will not permit you if they don't.
Yeah, we worked pretty hard. And in fact, I communicated on a couple of these elevations that the screen actually is the same height as the hood. So as as you're looking up from perspective, you should not be able to see them from the ground.
And I have a question, just because I'm working on a restaurant building right now, and I'm getting caught on some things.
Okay.
So the mechanical piece on your building beat back, coming out of the roof, how do you access that?
That would have to be by ladder. We worked hard to get the 2 other locations accessible from the walkway, but for the grease hood and the condenser that's going to be in there, you'll have to get a ladder to
So
get there.
there's room for you to walk around.
I think you're literally just propping a ladder up against the screen.
I know, I'm just because I'm working on something, we have some on the roof and we have to put a platform and a ladder. So you meet the height because the ladder doesn't have to be, as long as you're less than 16 feet. But I was just wondering how that worked on those.
It may end up that we can put a small access from the mechanical room behind it in there. Those are just hard to waterproof. And if I don't, if I don't have to do that, I
That's fine.
probably
It was
prefer
just,
not to do that.
it's just, I know I'm going through it, just giving you a heads up.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
As somebody in the AC business, I don't appreciate that.
You'd rather have the little door?
Yes.
Okay, little door it is. We got it.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay, so it sounds like we're having a hard time with this 8-foot
I
foundation.
ask a question about that?
planting. Yep.
For staff, perhaps. In the ordinance for the landscaping section, D, number 2, can we get some clarity on what it means when it says, "A landscape buffer at least 8 feet wide shall be maintained between any structure and any parking or driving area, except loading areas and areas where drive-through are utilized. This space is reserved for plant material. No space is required at the rear or other sides of the building." Does that mean you don't have to have 8 feet all the way around the building?
Like when you have areas, back of house, especially for restaurants where, you might have, like a mop sink or something like that. Obviously, you can't put foundation plantings in where you're having a mop sink or you're having, any type of equipment. If you have, gas lines, utilities, things like that, that can't be blocked, then that's what gives that little bit of,
But when it says it's not required at the rear or other sides, is that a blanket statement where it's only, to mean that the 8 feet is only required at the front? Or, do you know what I mean? Maybe it would help if you have that section up.
yeah, I don't know if I have it in the,
Because I think on other projects before, we've had less than 8 feet on rear. I'm not sure if that helps. We still want it to be on the front, but I don't know if that
the service,
helps.
yeah, the service side, it's been less.
Well, part of the challenge we have on the east side is you've got a parking space with no sidewalk there too.
We have a lot of that problem, but we
But
can't
we're
look at that
beyond
tonight.
at ACOD, yeah.
I'm sorry, we don't have that in the presentation. And
It's in the packet.
I don't have the full packet.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
Sorry. Here you go.
It was
I'll
actually
let you
on.
look
Yeah,
at it.
Is that what it is? No, that's landscape.
Page 58 of the packet, if that helps.
I don't have the complete packet in front of me, sorry.
That's okay.
I can, if you don't mind, give me a few minutes and we can look into that. But, what we can do is, again, if we're able to shift the building, we're getting the landscaping on, the public side of things.
May River side, the street
May River
side,
side,
anything that's
side.
visual.
Yeah,
Like
that's-
visible from,
I guess I'm just trying to get at, is it a variance if it's at 7 feet on the other side when it says no such space is required at the rear or other sides? You know what I mean? Like, if it's not a variance, then I don't think we have to hold them to that.
How about we do it this way, just in the interest of time, we can make our motion for 8-foot buffers all around as defined by, and then mention that.
Okay.
For
To be
staff.
compliant with that
Yeah.
guideline. Okay.
So then if it is not,
Yeah,
can do
and then
that.
we can do some more research on it.
Okay.
okay, so with that, who wants to make that motion?
she has the code, so.
Hang on, I got to figure out what section it's part of.
Page, what, 48, 58?
Could I make
Can I just say
a
with a
statement
page of the
before a
packet?
motion is made? So could the motion be made in a manner so that if it's determined that we don't necessarily need the full 8 feet on the rear side of the building, that if we have 8 feet on 46 and the main road, that we could be approved at the staff level and move forward?
Yeah, I think any of our motion will be staff level.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, unless we do
But it'll be
something
under that
opposite.
ordinance, so if that
Yeah.
ordinance, which we just read, it said rear is an exception.
Gotcha.
What is this document called? I'm trying to find the right.
UDO, what?
Oh, it's not the video.
If I may?
Yeah.
Again, for the folks who are here from the public, my name is Richardson LaBruce. I'm the attorney for the Planning Commission here tonight. And
You don't have a microphone, so you make sure people.
Pardon?
You don't have a microphone, so make sure everybody can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hi, good evening, everybody. To work through this motion a little bit more quickly, what I would recommend based off of what I've heard from the Planning Commission tonight is to make a motion as recommended by staff for approval with the conditions listed in the staff report, but with condition number 1 being subject to staff review and approval as to the rear boundary and the 8-foot buffer. And if that is your...
I would say the 8-foot buffer all around, subject to that.
Okay, so we'll do a motion to approve with conditions as stated in the staff report, subject to the modification of condition number 1 being confirmation that from staff that the 8-foot buffer is required around the entire building. Does that make sense?
I'll also add the the stacks for the, I want to make sure all the mechanical's on that,
And what's that, to have them shown on the plan? Is that what-
on the roof plan.
Yeah. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the application with the conditions noted by staff. With the first condition, subject to staff review of the BZDSO requirements for the foundation buffer to ensure that the final plan is compliant with this section. I would also like to include that we have determined that LED lights are an appropriate substitute per section 3 of this. And then add an additional condition that the chimneys and vents all be shown on the roof plan. And confirmed not to be visible from Mayor Road.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes. Do we have in here the dumpster height? I'm not seeing it. Yeah, but is it in the staff recommendations? Otherwise, we need to add it.
Okay, so.
I'm not seeing it. Are
We
you?
can get that on the final development plan.
Staff will make sure it happens? Okay. Sound good.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Okay. Thank you. Okay. The second item on the agenda, Parklands Drive, Track 4, Development Plan Amendment. Dan?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Give me 1 second here. It's a preliminary development plan for Parklands Drive, Track 4. It's a request by Jen Townsley of Palmetto Coastal Landscaping on behalf of Hampton Lake Community Association. For approval of a preliminary development plan, the application proposes to construct an enclosed storage area to serve as vehicle and equipment storage for landscape operations. Property is in the Buckwalter PUD and within the Bright Water Master Plan. This is the location of the property off of Bluffton Parkway and the just south of Parklands Drive within the Hampton Lake community. That's the aerial of the same location. An application for a preliminary development plan. Site previously served as a stockpile yard for dredge material during the construction of the adjacent apartment complex. and a significant amount of excavated material is present on site. The proposed work includes construction of an enclosed gravel storage yard, gravel access drive, stormwater BMP, and 2-inch water service line to utilize as vehicle and equipment storage for the PC landscaping operations. The site will be enclosed in a chain link fence. Staff comments on the preliminary development plan were reviewed at the June 28, 2023 Development Review Committee meeting. The applicant provided a resubmittal on November 22nd, including a revised site development plan. I don't know. This is Parklands Drive. The entrance would be off of here. It circles around. Actually about a 12-foot berm on this side, wetlands on the east side and across the south side. There's homes that back up here that would not be able to see even the fence because there's about a 12-foot. All of this will sit about 12 feet below the adjacent berm. That's a close-up, a little bit closer picture of it, but I can come back to this if you guys have any questions. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in section 310.3A of the UDO. This is the 6 criteria. Planning Commission has the authority to take the following action. They can approve the application as submitted, approve the application with conditions, they can table the application, or they can deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Town staff finds the requirements of 310.3A of the UDO have been met and recommends that the Planning Commission approve the application as submitted. And we have a suggested motion there, but I can move to take any questions you may have first.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Sorry?
Would the applicant like to speak?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it's not her.
The applicant
It's a different
here.
project. Is the applicant?
It is.
Yeah.
I didn't see you back there, Nathan.
Nathan.
Hey, Nathan Surrey, civil engineer on the project. I'm here on Palmetto Coastal's behalf. Real straightforward project. We're trying to use a site that otherwise is tough to use, and we're going to tuck a yard back there and no one will be able to see it. We're kind of capturing flow from going to a protected area and rerouting it to a stormwater network, kind of over-designed to help improve water quality. It's really straightforward. I think none of the single-family residents will be affected by this project.
Thank you.
You mentioned a fence. Is it on any of these maps, or can you show us where the fence is going to be?
It's basically around, it's hard to see on this scale, but it's around the gravel parking area. It's just going to fully encompass it. It's about 0.8 acres.
It wraps around here.
Yes, sir. Just all the gravel will be fully encompassed.
What's up, questions? Questions?
6-foot chain link fence?
I believe so. We will submit, Wooden Partners is doing a landscape design plan, and they'll submit all the fencing details with our final development plan.
And I did look at the elevations. I mean, it's 20 feet above sea level where the gravel is. It goes up to a high of 38, and then down where the lagoon is 26. So, yeah, it's 12 to 18 feet in vertical.
And by the time they're done moving the dirt on the top, it may be even more.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion
To public comments.
on this item? Oh, okay. Well, then I guess we need to go to public comment. Can I have the first one?
Frank Barbieri.
Name and address for the record.
Frank Barbieri, 71 Fording Court. My concerns with this is not with the buffering and that sort of thing. Is gasoline going to be stored on the site? And are any toxic chemicals that are part of a landscaping situation going to be on the site? Are they going to be secured? And will any of this be drained into the lake? And I'm concerned about those aspects. Thank you.
Thank you. And you have another one?
Tim Latimer.
Hi, I'm Tim Latimer. I'm a professional geoscientist. mostly retired and living here in Bluffton 6 months of the year. I'm a Canadian citizen, but I really love it in this
Do you have
area.
an address locally that you can?
62 Anchor Bend, I'm lot 8017, shown on the plan.
Okay.
My concerns are, I have no issues whatsoever, no objections to the conceptual plan of a landscape yard. I think it's well thought out. I think that the berm is well thought out, the fencing and all of those things. I am concerned about one specific thing, and I make one comment. The Anchor Bend Pond, which is shown to the west of the drawing, is one of 7 new lagoons that were installed or dug out when Hampton Lake, the new phase covering most of the west area of Hampton Lake, was constructed. That pond has the highest and best water quality of all of the 7 ponds. The phosphorus level in that pond is extremely low, and one of the reasons for that is because the residents along that western side of the pond are very careful with their application of fertilizer, following all of the better management practices they have. The payoff has been really good water quality. I'm concerned that the stormwater outlet from the proposed development will discharge into that pond. I think that if there's no change to water quality in the area because of the better management practices of the landscape contractor in the development, then that water should all go into the wetland rather than into the pond to prevent the risk of additional phosphorus loading coming from fertilizer, for example, from a landscape yard in discharging or reducing the water quality in that pond. I have lots of technical backup information that I can provide if asked for. And I apologize, this new amendment wasn't available to me until it was released on November the 22nd. So there's been a relatively short time to prepare a reasonable presentation to the committee. Thank you. I speak for myself, not residents, by the way.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Nathan, could you address some of the comments that they had as far as what's going to be stored on site and security and different things?
As far as I know, I'll need to check with Palmetto Coastal in terms of the equipment and the materials they'll be storing on site. I've been working with the assumption it'll be vehicles for the workers during the day, it'll be trailers that need to be stored, lawnmowers, that sort of thing. In terms of gasoline and other chemicals, I'm not sure. To address the lagoon, we are not changing any of the existing drainage patterns. All of this area already goes to the pond.
Can you speak a little bit closer into the mic? I think they're having a hard time. Can you hear back there?
No. Nobody. Turn it up a little bit.
Speak a little closer.
Okay, can you hear me? All right. So we are not changing existing drainage patterns. All of this land already drains to the pond. We're actually capturing it, slowing it down, and we're reducing levels beyond what is required in the SO Local manual. All of our post-development flows leaving this area are less than pre-development conditions, and including phosphorus, they will all be reduced at least 80% from this site.
And is there literature or something that backs that up so that when y'all continue forward, staff can
Yes, we
make
have
sure that that's happening?
a stormwater design report that goes through all this, including the pollutant reductions.
As to the question if you can discharge in the wetlands,
It's not ideal. Those are a protected wetland, and in fact, you can see there's been significant buffers beyond what's normal established for this wetland. So during kind of the design development of this, we were talking with the state. They prefer it to go to the interconnected pond system rather than the wetland.
Well, I can also tell you in Hampton Lake, on the other side of Hampton Lake, there's been too much fresh water discharging to the wetlands and it's killing the trees. And discharging directly to wetlands around here is a big no-no, as opposed to going to a freshwater lagoon.
Okay. Anybody else have any further comments, questions? Anyone feel comfortable to go ahead and make a motion?
I move to approve the Parklands Drive Track 4 preliminary development plan as submitted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. And just so you know, there's other opportunities. This is just preliminary, so if you have other concerns, let staff know.
And if we could, Dan, please look into storage of volatile.
Okay.
And make sure it's done properly. I'm sure you will anyways, but just for the benefit of everyone in the room.
And they go through the full stormwater permit review process.
Okay. Now, here we go. Item number 3, All Joy Donut Company Development Plan Application, a request by Maria Droughty on the behalf of Troy Deirdre for approval of a preliminary land development application, and we do have public comment on this as well, too. So what we're going to do is I'm going to let Dan speak, the applicant speak, and then we'll do public comment.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a preliminary development plan for All Joy Donut Company. It's a request by Maria Droughty on behalf of Troy Deirdre for approval of a preliminary development plan application. The project consists of a 2-story building with a donut shop on the first floor and a residential unit on the second floor and the associated parking and infrastructure. Property is identified by tax number, well, let me skip that, consists of .21 acres located at 26 Bruin Road in the Neighborhood General Historic District. This is the location of the property. It is the southwest corner of where Bruin Road and Pritchard Street intersect. This is the aerial of the same location. The application subject property is within the NGHD district and will be required, a certificate of appropriateness historic district will be required review and approval. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-story, 2,388 square foot building containing a donut shop on the first floor and a short-term rental dwelling unit on the second floor. Parking provided includes 5 standard spaces, 1 ADA accessible parking space, and 2 golf cart parking spaces, and that is the 8 required spaces. Staff comments on the preliminary development plan were reviewed at the October 25, 2023 Development Review Committee meeting. The applicant provided a resubmittal, including a response to comments on November 21st, 2023. The revised site plan demonstrates that the proposed development meets parking, open space, tree canopy, and landscape requirements. And this is the site plan, and maybe I could bring it up a little bit closer to, so let me set this over here for 1 second. This is a 22-foot wide entrance coming off of Bruin Road. Parking off on one side, there's 1 ADA space and 4 additional standard parking spaces here, 2 golf cart spaces at the end, 1 additional parking space here. This is provided as a turnaround. As you come in, you find that parking is full. You have the opportunity to pull into here and turn around and head back out. This is the proposed property with the porch is actually unheated. There's a patio in back. If you count the patio on back and the first floor, that requires 6 parking spaces total. And the second floor residential unit requires 2 additional parking spaces be allocated for it. This is the open space plan. This was in your packet. On the left provides some of the site data the additional site data that you had a chance to review. The shaded blue area represents pervious. Closer view of it.
Purple.
Colorblind. Blue isn't bad. That's close. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in section 310.3A of the UDO in assessing the application. It is the same 6 criteria I showed you with the previous development application. Planning Commission has the authority to take the following action. You can approve the application. You can approve the application with conditions. You can table the application, or you can deny the application as submitted by the applicant. And town staff finds that the requirements of section 310-3A of the Unified Development Ordinance have been met and recommends that the Planning Commission approve the application as submitted. And I'll open it up for any questions you may have.
Let's see if the applicant wanted to speak.
I don't, not at this moment.
Okay.
You did a great job, Dan.
Is he here too, or just you?
He is out of town. It's just me today.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do public comment before we start questioning things. Go ahead.
Preston Bassard.
Good evening. Preston Buzzard, 21 Pritchard Street. First, I'd like to start off, I love their product. This isn't an unknown. I've been to All Joy all time. Yeah, I love donuts.
We do too.
But it's just, I live across the street off of Pritchard Street, and I know how many cars are generated by their, it's not an unknown. We know what it is, and we know how many cars are parked there. And I know that it has 2 curb cuts, so they can get in and out. Here, they're only showing 1 curb cut along one of the busiest streets in Old Town Bluffton. It's going to cause a lot of traffic. Also, my next door neighbor is a builder, and I believe when they decided to move their company there, they thought they would use all their extra traffic and park it at the old Redfish, which is Cord Atkins Group. Well, Cord Atkins Group does not allow them to park, so they park across the street in the green grassy area. I'm afraid that's what's going to happen when all the spots, you show 5 or 6, when normally on a Saturday or Sunday, they'll have 10 or 12. So I'm afraid that all that parking is going to congest all along Pritchard Street, and it's going to affect my property values. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeanette Bassard.
I just want to thank the committee for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Your name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Jeanette Bussard. I'm the wife of Preston Buzzard. I live at 21 Pritchard Street in the Tabor Road subdivision. I came up to help explain the spreadsheet that I think you should have gotten a copy of. Preston and I did a little bit of traffic observations over the past weekend at the current All Joy Donuts located on Thomas Hayward Street. The first 4 columns, you'll see the numbers of cars that we observed at that location. At 6:45 on Friday, this was actually before they even opened, there were 5 cars parked there. There were no golf carts and there were none parked on the street. At 10:06 the same day, there were 13 cars parked there. There were no golf carts, and there were 3 cars parked on the street. The next day, on Saturday at 9:20 a.m., there were 13 cars parked in the parking lot, and there were no cars on the street. There were no golf carts. And at 12:30 p.m., which would have been about a half an hour before they close, there were 10 cars in the parking lot, and no cars parked on the street. As you know from the plan, the proposed number of parking spaces for the restaurant is 4, and that includes an ADA space. So even assuming that the ADA space is being utilized all the time, that shows that, you're seeing 1 space would have been overflow at 6:45 a.m. on Friday, and 9 would have been overflow on 10:06 on Friday, another 9 at 9:20 on Saturday, and 6 cars at 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. So we feel like these numbers are actually conservative because it is December, it's cold, the weather wasn't great this last weekend, it was kind of drizzly, it just wasn't a good day to be out, right? So we feel like these numbers are actually very conservative, and this is not during the peak tourist season. So in the summertime, their traffic is probably even more than this, is worse than this. So we're going to see a considerable amount of overflow traffic that's not accommodated by the parking plan that they're proposing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that traffic assessment. Okay, does anyone want to start off with questions for Dan or the applicant?
Oh, I have a couple.
Did you want to start?
Sure, I'd
Okay.
love to.
Go ahead.
And applicant may want to come up as well. I was at the DRC meeting when y'all were there, and there were a couple things we discussed at that time that I don't see addressed in here. The owner said that there are 7 employees that work there. That's 7 cars. And he said he was working on some kind of an agreement or arrangement to park those cars somewhere. Has he reached an agreement or arrangement?
And I'm Maria Andrade, thanks for having me. He has not reached an official agreement. I don't even think he's gone to had that conversation yet. I know we talked and he was moving forward with a plan to have them park off-site somewhere, but not necessarily at Court Atkins or in that area. So they potentially will have to walk from some other location. I'm not exactly sure where that would be at this point, but it wasn't right next door.
My fear is, y'all know the code, and y'all know that 1,000 square feet of restaurant space or lower, you have to have 4 spots. And you have to have 2 spots for upstairs, and so that's what you provided. But we all know, and this is the conversation we've had, that this is not going to work for a practical matter. There's nowhere, even if you put the employees somewhere else, there isn't enough room for the customers to park there without creating big-time traffic congestion. And that's a huge concern of mine, to the point where I personally am considering voting against this, even though you're following the UDO, because it's going to create a mess.
Sure.
And I'm very disappointed. I'm sorry. I'm not taking it out on you personally, but I'm very disappointed to see it come from DRC with concerns we brought up then that aren't mentioned. I mean, if this was further down Hayward Street, or if it was over near the promenade, or if it was something like that, it would be totally different than a pinch point on Bruin Road where there is no parallel parking, where, as we just heard from a resident around the corner, they have concerns that people are going to park along the grassy street in front of their house. Or we have a phantom agreement to put cars somewhere, we don't know where they are, to hopefully fix this. I just feel like it's incomplete at this point, and I'm frustrated.
Okay, I'm sorry you're frustrated. I don't recall that conversation about agreeing officially to have any employees, so that just isn't, so I didn't have anything to bring to the table about that. So that, I was at the last meeting we had, but perhaps that was another side meeting, so I just didn't know that we needed to have that for today or have that in the works officially.
We talked about possibly, and you're talking to one person, okay, there are 5 people up here. We talked about rotating the building, which you did.
Yes.
We talked about creating an area for more parking. We want you, your client, as a business person in this town, to succeed and to thrive. And this, in my opinion, as a business owner in the past, and as, involved in business for years, is not a formula for success. It's a formula for chaos.
Sure. There is parallel parking. Yes, I hear everything you're saying. And I think that's what a lot of people are probably concerned about, is just that Bruin is a main street and that it's, it's running straight to either Burnt Church or this 4-way stop. And, we're just adhering to what the requirements are in terms of what the parking is, given our, the sort of bizarre polygon that is that lot. There is parking, parallel parking up 1 block, as we all know, 5 or 6 between the corner of Pritchard and Bruin, and kind of actually running right in front of Court Atkins. I think there's like 5, I don't know how many, but there's several. So how that plays out, if you come into the site and can't find a parking space, and you came back out, I guess you could go up in front of Court Atkins and just park in front of I drove by there and no one ever really parks there because there's nothing going on currently. I don't know what the proposed things are in that adjacent, across the street and stuff. But so, to me, you could come in, you can't find a place to park, you shoot back out, you hang a right, and you just hit one of those 5 parking spaces, parallel, walk, and come over and have a donut and leave. that was just what I was thinking when I was sort of assessing it. I totally hear what you're saying about the, and what Jeanette was saying about 4 spots and this and that. So, I mean, it all makes sense. We're just going with what we can do based on, what you all are requiring.
Could you, for clarification, they mentioned something about 2 curb cuts, but I just want a clarification. There's only one.
They were talking about the current location.
Oh, the current location. Sorry. Okay, that's why I was a little confused. Does anybody else have any comments so far? 'Cause I had a couple. My concern is on the building side of it, which I know we can't, it's not our purview, is once you start adding all of the parts of the building, the circulation, meaning stairs, the mechanical, the riser room, all of that stuff, that might make that building footprint get bigger. And when that happens, it negates your parking plan.
Right.
So have they even started this layout and does everything fit?
I think everything fit. I mean, from what I understand, Marty was working on it and they had, they were massaging it all into the footprint.
I would just hate for it to get so far down the line and then it had to get bigger and then it doesn't even make sense.
Sure.
With what you're allowed to do.
I don't know exactly. I know the stairs are going to have to be somewhere and there's a few other things, and I don't know where those are going to go. I know we talked about it, but I don't know today where those would be located. But I know that would affect, I think they were going to go to the right of the lower vertical part of that footprint. That's where I think that he was talking about. I don't think it would be
And I
on
know
the parking
that
side.
part's not in our purview as far as what it looks like. I'm just concerned that if footprint has to get bigger, then it affects parking.
Oh, sure. Oh, right. Well, I mean, are the stairs considered part of that footprint then, that square footage?
Depends on how you do the stair. I mean, that's,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
that's the unknown of just be aware that if something changes with that, because you've got to fit all this stuff in there.
Right.
You can't park the lot anyway.
Sure. I mean, I know that with the square footage we had, we understood all of that when we came after this last meeting that we had. So I'm assuming, I don't know for sure because we don't have more detail for you.
Yeah. And I guess I just reiterate kind of Charlie's thing, because I was at, I think, the first DRC meeting or one of the meetings, and we did talk extensively about the whole parking situation, and we weren't really happy with the traffic backup that's going to happen and how we're going to park all the cars. And I was just hoping to see, like Charlie said, something different to show that we tried to do more.
I mean, they're open, 3 days a week?
But we all know that, we had someone do a parking count on a rainy, terrible Saturday. So I'm just saying, we all know that the business is great and it's awesome. We all love it. We all go there and go there all the time. But we just want to make sure for the public it's safe and for the traffic concerns. That's what I'm struggling with.
Sure. Okay.
And there was another, I know, Lydia, wasn't it you that said something about the patio and seating and had a question on that?
It sounded like when Dan presented,
That
they
it's
did
included.
include the patio square footage.
Does include the patio square footage, but they're, just like you're saying, they don't have much room. If the footprint's enlarged, it'll kick in an additional parking space.
Oh, and so we're saying the pervious patio is included in the footprint?
Is included.
In your square footage count.
Okay, so I mean, I would say then we would just cut that in half or whatever. I mean, I don't know. I think he would want to make it work, so we would just make it a smaller area or.
What is it for?
I think he just wanted some chairs out there if somebody wanted to sit and have some coffee.
Well, I think he's going to need that square footage for his building. I don't think that's going to work because you're going to have a bigger building than what you're thinking.
Okay, I think that would be definitely a viable, and I mean, we would be happy to get rid of the pervious patio.
So then maybe you could relook at some parking solutions by the shape of your building.
Oh, you mean knock off the bottom half of that?
I don't know. I'm not designing it for you, but I'm just saying by moving some of the square footage around and shaping it differently, you could look at different parking.
Right. I don't know that we're gonna put
Strategies.
any more parking in, just because it's what you all require, and so I would just say the parking is what it is, because that's what the minimum requirement is, so, I mean, you know what I mean, like that.
I understand that. It's just hard, and it's just hard because everybody does the minimum, and then we are all in trouble.
Right. Well,
And
I would say
with
that.
someone knowing what their business is and what the volume of their business is, and you're not concerned, that's kind of concerning for me.
Well, it's not that I'm not concerned, it's just that I, as a.
I'm saying that
Oh.
your client.
Oh, no, I think he's concerned, but I think he, you know, we're meeting the requirements, and then I also believe that as a patron of anything, if I can't get there in the lot, I'm just gonna park somewhere close and walk, which is what Bluffton is a walkable community. We're trying to be that more. So to me, you don't need to be like right slammed up against the donut shop, especially if you're eating donuts. Probably need to walk a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
no,
I mean, to
I
me, like,
understand that.
that adjacent parking up the road, or even just encouraging more pedestrians.
And I say that all the time. We have a walking problem, not a parking problem, and I get it.
Right.
But
So I think
the
that's what
same
it would
effect is we're on a
encourage.
busier road is the problem.
Yeah, and
So
I think.
that's my issue. We
So-
can argue about it all night long,
No,
but let's
I-
move on.
So, okay, so I would just say to that point, if you have a short-term view of it, yes, they may not understand how to deal with the parking, but I think in the long term, you may have more pedestrian and bike access. That's what I would say, so. But thank you.
I would like to make the comment, I would ask, I'm still not sure where I'm landing on this when we go for a motion and a vote, but if somebody makes a motion, I think we need to put in there something to the effect of staff to work with applicant to maximize parking in the space provided.
Yeah.
Maybe staff can help them come up with an idea.
Get to Lydia. She's been waiting on pins and needles.
I just have a question for staff. So, for the parking, I know we can use 25% substitute for golf cart, but does it matter that neither of the uses would then be compliant? Like the restaurant will not have 6 space, like 25% of 8, they can have 2, but the restaurant needs 6 spaces and the house needs 2, or the Airbnb needs 2. So neither of them, you know what I mean? As a total for the
independent.
project, it's 25%, but neither use is meeting the 25%. Does that matter or no?
I don't think it does. It's, the use over the whole site requires 8 spaces, so depending on the 2 uses that are there, and then 25% of the 8 required spaces is golf cart. That's how we interpreted it, and I think and I know what you're saying, but,
Well, it's just tough because the Airbnb probably isn't gonna be, they're gonna have 2 cars presumably, so then you have 3 spaces for cars that aren't ADA, which is a challenge for me.
Dan, can you clarify something on parking? Is that parking on the front, can it go all the way to the first setback line?
I don't think they can squeeze another spot in here. Is that what you're asking? An additional spot there? I don't think so because, and it may be based on, we defer to DOT standards for the parking layout, and this is DOT road. And I think you have to have so much clearance as you come in before your first parking spot, and you just couldn't fit one more in there. As someone backing out while somebody's coming in. They most definitely would have.
Actually, I just didn't put a parking spot there because I think we bumped it back to that 10-foot buffer line or build line. That was the only reason I had that down there. So there is 10 feet there. We wanted to stick a spot in there.
But is there turning radius? I mean, can you do that? Is it too close?
It should have a 5-foot turning radius on it right now.
But you're saying if you bump it up.
It's too close.
And I'm not sure if this is to my other commissioners or if it's from staff, but from DRC, what was the conversation regarding the shared drive entry versus their own entry and kind of the rationale between those changes?
It was more along the lines of they don't have clear ownership or a clear agreement with the neighboring property owner.
Right.
And the curb cut, I believe, is right there right now. I can't remember.
There's no,
Not there.
not yet, we have a tentative approval for that, but, verbal kind of casual emails, but no curb cut.
Okay. This one's really hard,
It is, but, it's reviewed basically.
based on the code, I know.
My
Just
perspective
looking at,
is.
I always like to look at your report, just in case you had words of wisdom. Do you have something you'd like to say?
This is as much for y'all as it is for the members of the public who are here and the folks who are perhaps watching tonight. But your job is to evaluate the applications, the proposals before you, utilizing the criteria in the UDO. Staff provides interpretations of that criteria, or those criteria, and, sorry about that. Staff will provide interpretations of that criteria. They will review it themselves, they will provide that evidence to you, and then y'all can take that and reach the conclusion that you deem best based on the criteria and based on the application that was submitted. Under the law, if the application meets all the criteria necessary, then it should be approved. I think everybody in the room is well aware of y'all's concerns about the parking. It certainly sounds like a tremendous issue, but that is frankly, it is a commercial, financial, economic decision for the property owner or the business owner as to whether it will work out in the long run. So with that, I'm happy to answer any particular questions you may have about the criteria and whether the parking impacts.
What about public safety? What is that?
So if you look at your 6 criteria, and Dan, would you mind? Sure. If I start touching something, I'm worried it'll cut off.
Going in the wrong direction.
So as you can see, public safety is not a listed criteria. What they have to be is in compliance with the Unified Development Ordinance. They have to have, if there was a prior approved master plan or PUD, they'd have to be in compliance with that. A lot of the criteria do not apply in this case because it's in the historic district. It's not in a prior approved PUD. I think your only thought would be 310 3A4, which has to be served by adequate public services. Generally, that is going to be limited to utilities and provisions provided by the government and, the town of Bluffton, Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer Authority, Department of Transportation in this case. We have never used that to deny an application based on a parking limitation. But if that is something that y'all think is worthwhile.
I was more concerned about the traffic impact on Bruin and then backing up. I mean, we already have a problem with traffic at certain times, and I understand it's a conditional business, but if it's not just that business, but anyway, that's why I was asking.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. And if y'all feel like your concerns and the application can't meet that particular criteria, that would be my recommendation to look under that one for a basis for denial, if that is the way that you're going.
And I'm just wondering, reading this and talking about provide analysis and mitigation of impact on transportation, utilities, and community services, like, would they don't have to do a traffic impact study currently?
No, ma'am. And that section deals with the phasing plan. In particular, and my understanding is this is not going to be a phased development. There is also as you know, in the historic district, decisions it's kind of a dual process. You have the siting, which is what Planning Commission is here deciding tonight. That is your preliminary development plan. But they're also going to have to go before the Historic Review Commission, Historic Review Board, for a COFA HD.
Anybody want to do?
It should be noted that the
you're talking about the safety issues for transportation. They are required to receive an encroachment permit through SCDOT. So they are looking at it from a safety standpoint. They do have certain criteria that have to be met for distancing. I understand the concern of, people entering and exiting the site. That's with every site that we have. So, to just keep that into account as you're moving forward.
And they're the 160 feet off the curb or the intersection?
Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
All right, go for it.
I move to approve the All Joy Donut Company preliminary development plan as submitted.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Do you have any further discussion? Everybody knows what our issues are. So we'll make a vote.
Yep.
We'll make a vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. 4-1, you got that, Carrie? Okay. Item number 4, venture at Oakity Bluff, development plan application, a request by Willie Powell of Ward Edwards on behalf of the property owner, Oakity Bluff's owner, for approval of a preliminary development plan.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a preliminary development plan for venture at Oakity Bluffs. Request by Willie Powell of Ward Edwards on behalf of the property owner, Oakity Bluffs Owner LLC, Adrian Dan Miller, for approval of a preliminary development plan. The applicant proposes to construct the construction of a 150-unit multifamily development and associated parking and infrastructure. Property is zoned Buckwalter PUD and consists of approximately 22 acres located within the Parcel B1 master plan. And that's a recently approved master plan that came before you just a few months ago. This is a subject property. It is the northeast corner of where Gibbet Road intersects with Oakity Highway SC 170. This is the same property superimposed over an aerial. The original preliminary development plan application was submitted on October 12, 2023, and includes 6 multifamily buildings, 4 garage buildings, amenities, and associated infrastructure. On October 31st, the applicant requested to expand the scope to include stub and utilities to the southern future development parcel, extending utilities and the multi-use path through the northern future development parcel, and constructing an additional SC 170 access point north of the subject parcel. And I've got a slide where I'll point that out to you here in a second. Staff comments on the preliminary development plan were reviewed at the November 15, 2023 Development Review Committee meeting. The applicant provided a response to comments and revised narratives, site development plans, and preliminary landscape plans on November 22nd, 2023. And let me see if I did not. This is when they decided to request an expanding the scope, which we approved and allowed. This was the graphic they provided. In the middle here, and I won't even attempt at colors, but the middle here is the multifamily development. They will build this in its entirety. What they expanded to is this corner. This is Gibbet Road coming up and intersecting with 170. This is the corner parcel. And this corner parcel would have utilities stubbed to it. That includes drainage coming from, I guess you'd call it from the east, and then water and sewer stubbing to it here. So it's just stubs to this parcel. When you look on the north side of this parcel to the right of the screen, this is the commercial parcels. I believe it's all one parcel now. They're proposing in the master plan that it would be 3 parcels, but they would run the water and the sewer all the way across. This would actually be an additional access point onto 170. And that's and actually the water and sewer would come back here so that it could be available to this back parcel here. So that was the additional expanded scope that they requested early on, and we approved as part of their preliminary development plan application. Here is the layout. we have, so they are proposing a right-in, right-out at this location, right-in, right-out at this location that would access the site. This drive would be built, that's one thing I did not mention, this drive would be built as part of the expanded scope. We've got dumpster location in the back, we've got a pump station over here, and we've got 6 units, a clubhouse and pool, and parking garage is located here. That's the site plan from the development plan set that I can come back to if you have any questions. It should be noted that both of the parcels that do not include the multifamily parcels, they're designated as future development. The master plan that was approved showed a generic layout on them. Nothing has been approved on those parcels. They have to go through the full development plan process. There's a wide range of commercial uses that could be allowed on either of those parcels, north and south of the apartment complex. Planning Commission shall consider the criteria set forth in section 310-3A of the UDO. These are the 6 criteria. Planning Commission can approve the application as submitted, approve the application with conditions, table the application, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. Town staff finds that the requirements of 310-3A of the UDO have been met and recommends that the Planning Commission approve the application as submitted. We've worked a whole bunch with this applicant, and they've been fairly well to work with. They're keeping an open mind. They're going to provide a 10-foot multi-use path across the frontage of this property, and so our recommendation of approval is after a good back and forth and massaging the plan a bit. And I will open it up for any questions you may have for me or the applicant.
Would the applicant like to speak? You're good? Okay, you want to wait? Willie's shaking his head, but I don't know you guys, so.
I'll say one
Do
thing.
you want to come up and state your name?
Yeah. My name is Adrian Dan Miller. Need to address her. Yeah. I just wanted to mention one thing, which is that this, the infrastructure that we're extending to the future development area to the north, we work with staff and with town council, and they kind of had a request that, there's a need for commercial uses in this area. So we elected and agreed to extend that to make those areas more prepared to, so that commercial development and the uses that town council really wanted to see can come on board faster by way of us doing that. So that's kind of the reason we did that. Just thought I'd mention that. But other than that, any questions you have, we'd love to answer, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And Carrie, we don't have any public comment. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Pretty straightforward. Okay. You guys have any?
I think it's a good-looking project, yeah. One thing to say, I see one dumpster for 6 buildings, and I know there's, whoever's in 1 and 2 are gonna have a little frustration walking all the way across site to throw their trash away. I don't know if the end of that dead-end parking, if there's a chance to put something over there, that might be advantageous to the...
You want to elaborate on that? We had to move it once.
But that was one, right?
To that point, it'll be a large compactor, so it'll have a lot of capacity. And then the other thing is that we offer a valet trash service that's daily. So it's actually part of the services of the development that the trash will be collected and transported to that area for them. So that, that kind of alleviates maybe some of the concern relating to that.
Can we give you our addresses?
I was going to say, can you come to my house? I live across the street.
We'll talk after the meeting.
Okay, any other questions?
I'd like to make a motion.
Go for it.
I move to approve the venture at Okatee Bluffs preliminary development plan as submitted.
You have a second?
Second.
Michael first. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Last item on the agenda is Parkways Multifamily Development Plan Amendment, a request by Jake Reed on behalf of the property owner HL Development LLC for approval of a preliminary development plan. And Carrie, we do have public comment. Do we have many or?
We have two, and Mr. Blyman, two.
Okay. I just kind of I had a speech prepared in case there was more than two. Okay, thanks.
Oh, no, they'll never know the speech.
Well, that's,
This is a preliminary development plan for the Parkways multifamily. Their initial submittal called it Parkways multifamily, and subsequent submittals called it the Palmer. That is why I got AKA the Palmer on here. This is a request by Jake Reed on behalf of the property owner HL Development LLC for approval of a preliminary development plan. The applicant proposes the construction of a 200-unit multifamily development and associated parking and infrastructure. Property is zoned Buckwalter PUD and consists of approximately 20.06 acres located within the Hampton Lake Master Plan. And here is the location of the property, just south of Bluffton Parkway and east of the main entrance into Hampton Lake. Same location on an aerial. The proposed development includes 4 3-story multifamily buildings containing a total of 200 apartment units. The development also includes a clubhouse and pool, garages and storage units, a trash compactor, maintenance building, and the required 455 parking spaces. Beaufort County Engineering Department has reviewed the development plans, traffic impact analysis, and traffic warrant analysis, and have provided a recommendation letter. They just provided that to us today, I think. And when you received your packet, we had said that it had been submitted to them for review. So I can elaborate on that once we get there. Continuing, staff comments on the preliminary development plan were reviewed at the November 29, 2023 Development Review Committee meeting. The applicant provided a response to comments, conceptual plan, and revised site plans. The response to comments provided at time of resubmittal notes that the developer will agree to design, permit, and construct the full access prior to certificate of occupancy. The response to comments also notes that the developer will deed restrict as a permanent residential buffer the 2.27 acre parcel south of the subject property that is also owned by the developer. And here is the conceptual plan. I got a closer view of it here. So when we're talking about the secondary access, what we're talking about is this access here off of Bluffton Parkway. I should note that this is a 200-unit apartment complex. If someone were to come in under our UDO wanting even 11 residential units, we would in the subdivision, we would want 2 points of access. This access here is internal to Hampton Parkway, but it leads out to the roundabout and to a signalized intersection with Bluffton Parkway. We have 4 buildings. There's an entrance here that's open space and a grass paved fire lane. The fire marshal was concerned about being able for the hose to be able to reach all of the buildings. They relocated the buildings and provided this fire lane access to resolve that comment. These are garages, and each of the end pieces of each of the garage units is actually a storage unit. There is a marginal access road that when built out in full, it would run parallel with Bluffton Parkway. That marginal access road, this is a continuation of it here. If I had a pulled out version, you would see where it's built in several different areas. The idea is for it to connect, to minimize the amount of traffic that has to get on Bluffton Parkway, or that traffic can get on Bluffton Parkway at a signalized intersection. So in this development, it's a continuation of that marginal access road, and it's running here, and it ties in, and it would continue westward. And proposed with future development would be this continuing eastward. We've got a compactor and recycling location here, a maintenance building here. The 2.27 acre, I believe is what I said, the parcel that we're talking about is right here. My understanding is that they're willing to deed restrict that as a residential buffer. I don't think you can make that a condition of approval. It's adjacent to the site, not part of the subject property. And maybe Richardson can elaborate on that if that question comes up again. That's the site plan. Actually, the conceptual site plan does a better job of showing the location. We've got power lines, 225-foot power line easement. It's actually 3 separate power lines within this. The easement line itself runs roughly about where my cursor's running right here. What's shown on this aerial is actually the overhead lines and a couple of underground power lines. So they're parking under it, which is allowed. No buildings are under it. The actual easement line runs in front of the buildings by about 10 feet. Planning Commission shall consider criteria set forth in section 310.3A of the UDO in assessing the application. These are the same 6 criteria we've looked at in previous presentations. Planning Commission can approve the application as submitted, approve the application with conditions, table the application, or deny the application as submitted by the applicant. And town staff finds that the proposed development does not meet the requirements of criteria 2 and 3, and therefore does not recommend approval of the preliminary development plan. Should the Planning Commission choose to approve the application with conditions, town staff finds that the following conditions should be met prior to final development plan approval to be in accordance with the requirements of section 310.3A. I had two conditions listed here. One was to provide this access management plan, that secondary access road that I pointed out, that it should be designed and built as part of this development. It should serve as the construction entrance and provide a permanent open access. I'll reread that in a second. The second condition that I had was to provide a right-in, right-out that is also shown in the Bluffton Parkway Access Management Plan. When we got feedback from county engineering, they said that the interpretation of that was providing right-in, right-out areas that may or may not have to be built. It was more for, as developers see fit, as an opportunity to get to Bluffton Parkway at a non-signalized location. But it isn't the mandatory requirement that the signalized intersections would be. In other words, it's more important for them to have roughly 1,700 feet apart for the signalized intersections, and they showed right-in, right-outs in between them as opportunities for a developer to utilize those as additional access points, but as right-in, right-out access points. So we removed that second criteria. We just have the first criteria, which is...
So what is that distance?
I'm sorry.
What's that distance for the light?
Between the signalized lights, let me jump back up to it.
Approximately 2,500.
2,500 feet.
If I could, just because this is relevant.
Okay.
So the commission knows, I was sitting on town council when this access management plan came before town council with county council, town staff and county staff to speak to those right-in, right-outs. The county and the town were concerned with having stoplights at least 2,500 feet apart in both Buckwalter and Bluffton Parkway. And they drew the right-in, right-outs in between the lights because they didn't want anything closer than 1,000 feet to the lights. And they said at the time, we want this to be as limited access of a roadway, both Buckwalter and Bluffton, as possible, with the understanding that if a developer needs to get in or out of their property and the light cannot work for some reason, that would be put in there. So it was drawn on there, but it was always, at least back then, it was discussed, if we could avoid those right-in, right-outs, we want to avoid those right-in, right-outs. And that's what the county sent back in that letter today.
Yes, that's very much in line with what you just said.
But just as somebody who was in the room back then, I wanted to share it with commission.
And I'll jump back to that slide and finish the presentation. But what we're talking about is what's called out here as temporary Hall Road. Opposite of this is the L apartments that are going in right now. So that's where that four-way intersection would be. The L apartments have modified the median to allow for left turns in. This would be same modification for access into this site. But we are not saying that it needs to be signalized at this time. They did provide a traffic signal warrant analysis that did not warrant a signal at this time, and the county's letter didn't reference a signal being warranted either. And so they'll start just here. Should Planning Commission choose to approve the application with conditions, town staff finds that the following condition, singular, should be met prior to final development plan approval to be in accordance with requirements of section 310-3A, as required in the Bluffton Parkway Access Management Plan. Provide a full access intersection at the northeast corner of the site where the temporary Hall Road currently intersects with the parkway. This secondary access should serve as the development's construction entrance and provide permanent open access for residents prior to certificate of occupancy. And that would be the suggested motion that I can return to, and I'll open it up for questions. And the applicant, sir.
Let's hear from the applicant then, if anyone wants to speak on what their intentions.
Hey, my name's Tim Brutch with Carolina Engineering, representing the development. Appreciate you guys for being here. Just want to see if you guys have any questions. We brought traffic engineer, we brought land planner Josh Taylor, and then we got the owners Jake and John Reed to answer any questions. As for the Hall Road's currently being designed and under construction to provide dirt to all the portion to the east. That's a multi-building commercial project that's working through the IMP process right now. So we don't have a problem with adding this to the scope of our project, but from a timing standpoint, it makes more sense to get some of the utilities designed for the commercials. So that way, as they do, they can figure out their stormwater, their water, their sewer. As we don't need any of the utilities, because Hampton Lake's providing all that from us, and all we need is just the access. So
you're saying timing-wise, the other property will get done, that road will get done before this?
we just want a little, yes, we would like to add this as a conditional approval. So before we get a CO for the buildings, that road will be up and operational.
And that's going to be done during the other properties?
Yes. As we get the IMP, we could begin to look at utilities to serve those parcels. So.
All right, well, we have public comment, so let's go ahead and do those.
Frank Barbieri.
Thank you. There's a little bit of instant replay. I'm back again.
Your name
The
and
traffic-
address again.
pardon me?
Your name and address for the record.
Frank Barbieri, 71 Fording Court. The traffic that's been discussed, to me, is a problem. And mainly when it comes on to Hampton Road, Hampton Lake Drive. The reason being is 200 apartments. Let's say 100 people leave for work between 6:30 and 8 o'clock. That is not a highway of any kind. That is a little residential street. That's an enormous impact on that little area. And I think that it would be better if the traffic can be diverted. Now, there was also a proposal for another complex down closer to the corner of Buckwalter and Bluffton Parkway. Well, I'm not a road engineer, but an eyeball test would say if both of those just ran a road internally and then turned off at locations that were apart, it would serve the interest of both and not have a lot of, I guess the highway committees, they don't want a lot of exits and entrances along the way. So I think that should be considered as part of it. And I think there should be adequate buffering and fencing between that and the Hampton Lake development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kim, and I apologize. Yeah, Michael, there we go.
Everybody gets their good stuff, sorry. Hi, my name is Kim Michael John, and I live at 80.
Come up closer to the mic.
My name's Kim Michael John, and I live at 83 Fording Court, and thank you for hearing me, madam. I have a couple things, and they're not personal. I'm trying to keep it black and white, and we all know we moved here for a reason, and we all know we don't want the apartments, and we all know, thank goodness, Mr. Reed had the fortitude to build Hampton Lake to begin with. But a couple of my questions is what is the minimum number of feet that he has to be off of Bluffton Parkway? So that we can have the maximum number of feet between Fording Court and the back of, I guess it's garages and storage. So, you know, he says 2.27 acres, but I assume that goes left to right also from front to back. So I'm just trying to figure out how we can get the maximum number of feet between Fording Court and the back of the parking garages. And then the recycle thing, that's just a personal thing. I see the recycle bin being right there next to the water, and I see alligators. And, you know, we all see the alligators that'll come eventually, and to me, that recycle bin is going to be a feeding place for them, which also opens up a danger to the residents of that community. I was wondering if it could be moved adjacent to where there isn't any water, and therefore the alligators won't be fed unnaturally. The other thing is, and this may be a sore subject, but we know that there was a prior plan before to turn this into a residential area and part of Hampton Lake. The residents of Fording Court asked them to put a buffer in, put some sidewalks in, and they at that time said no, they being the Reeds. I'm wondering if that's something that could be revisited at this time with the proper, what's the word I'm looking for, the proper area being available in between the two neighborhoods, or that wouldn't be the neighborhood, to be an extension of Hampton Lake. So maybe if we could revisit it, but put some of these things in that we asked for to begin with, that we're still asking for. And the Reeds don't have a history of being accountable, for things after they've built them. Our Crystal Lake to be one of the sore subjects in our community. So I want to make sure that everything that can be written to the T in this proposal is completed by you guys or whomever. So if he's going to give us the maximum number of distance in between, please have it written somewhere. If he's going to give us the fencing, which I think we need, please have it written. Sidewalks, written, please, because it'll disappear or change. The other thing I have a little concern about, I guess that's a warning.
If it's short, wrap it up.
All right, I'll do it short, is the lighting and the noise pollution from the apartments, and addressing the wildlife that's in Hampton Lake at this point, the wetlands and the wildlife, the runoff from all of that. So in conclusion, I respect the Reeds and their visions, but I also know we need to be very careful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone want to start with questions for staff or the applicant?
Can we speak to ourselves?
Yeah, you can go ahead if you want to answer some of those questions they had.
I just gonna try to answer.
State your name, please.
I'm John Reed. I live at 38 Martin's Place. I am the developer of Hampton Lake and a few other communities. But I just want to say,
Speaking to the mic.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate everybody being concerned about it. I think I'm here to tell them that they won. You know, when a couple years ago, we had 52 homes planned there. I thought that was the best plan, but they brought up some good suggestions and whatever, because doing those 52 homes, putting them there, while it's less density, it was going to take every bit of the buffer out. We don't have to have a buffer in our PUD. But I spent 20 years developing, and I didn't mean to spend that long developing Hampton Lake. We kind of got slowed down with the recession and depression. But anyway, I put a lot of my heart into developing Hampton Lake. And I thought the 52 houses was the right thing to do. But when I heard them, they said they wanted the arbors. They wanted the trees. They wanted the privacy. They wanted the wildlife habitat. That 2-acre buffer cost us 17 lots of 34 units, but that a little over 2 acres connects, that buffer is 50 to 80 feet wide, deep, 50 to 80 feet. You cannot see through it. And we have agreed to put a deed restriction on not cutting trees, no underbrushing, and I'll be glad to give it to the POA, after we get the approvals and so forth, whatever. But we will put the deed restriction even for them. We have no problem doing that, except for, the only thing you do it for emergencies or easement for a utility line or something like that. We'll deed restrict it. But that 2 acres, the 2.17 acres actually goes to probably 30 to 40 acres of habitat, so I think they win because they're not going to see it. There's no connectivity to it. We're going to add a second full intersection up there, and something we hadn't talked about it. The only way the Hampton Lake people would see it from Hampton Lake would be to drive on the road or to go through it. And it is going to be, it's very important, that is a connectivity road. And you're going to be able to drive the outer lanes all the way. You can use the outer lanes and get to that second intersection and cross right there and get to Buckwalter Place without ever driving on Bluffton Parkway. And eventually, we're getting ready to go east also, and you'll be able to drive all the way to Innovation Drive, all the way to Buckwalter Parkway without getting on the parkway. And that's been important to all of us for a long, long time. So I want these people to know that I'm a developer, but I'm proud of it because we do a good job. And I hope that they know that we cared enough to put that buffer there. I mean, I think that answered your question, and I hope you go home tonight saying, hey, we won. I think you did. But we're going to build, so we'll put it in writing, like you said, deed restricted, and we'll also put in, condition that we build the second intersection before we have a CO, certificate of occupancy, or something like that. So if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, but I do thank you.
Are there any, I guess they were asking for fencing opportunities?
Well,
As far as,
I think that should probably be the POA. I mean, we're putting a buffer up.
Yeah.
A pretty big buffer. And as I said, I'm willing to give the whole 2 acres to the POA if they'd like to. Okay.
What about the other thing someone had mentioned was about the compactor and trash and all of that, which now that whoever said that made sense that if it's near that lagoon, is it going to attract animals to that area, or are you going to have the concierge trash that they're going to compact it?
That's a new one. It's going to cost you some money.
Yeah.
Hampton Lake.
The Hampton Lake Apartments had it first.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Concierge trash service is pretty standard in apartments today.
Yeah.
so you are having that?
I'm not committing to that. No.
I don't know. I'll let the technical people.
No, I'm just, I mean, it was a,
Management company question?
it's a good concern just because of the location of it and the wildlife that we're trying to protect.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
As for the pond, that's right there next to the, adjacent to the compactor, that's gonna be a bioretention area, and due to high water tables and everything, it can only be, I think I got it currently designed at 8 inches deep. So that water's meant to fill up and then dissipate, so it's meant to be a dry pond. So I don't, I'm not a wildlife expert myself, but, I don't see water, so I don't see alligators staying in there and all that stuff from
Maybe color it not blue.
Really?
I'm just saying, people don't understand things when they're colored.
So it's both ponds. The one on the east and the west are both bioretention ponds is what they're planned to be. And the one in the center is actually going to be your traditional wet detention pond that you'll see. And,
Can I called Richardson earlier today because I had some concerns, and I don't know what you came up with, but basically to bring everybody up to speed, because council has directed us to not approve developments over 10 units without two entrances, if we are to approve it tonight, and I'm not saying we are or we aren't, but if we are to approve it tonight, we need to see a clear path to that entrance being done at a certain point in time. And because it's two different parcels, even though it may be, and I'm not sure if it is, but it may be the same owner, you were looking into how we can require that and what kind of legalities we can put into that. If you don't mind sharing what your thoughts were on that, sir.
Putting him on the spot.
Yep.
It is the same owner, okay, the same owner, and it's on, half of it is on this property.
Commissioner Wetmore, it's not, there's not really a simple solution there, but what I would recommend that we do, if we are, to be able to approve this with conditions, I think that the requirement would have, the condition would have to be the construction of that secondary access point to the standards required by staff for that second entrance. The concern I think that we would have is a vague statement would allow something like a construction road or, I don't want to say a timber road because that's not, I don't think what's going to be intended here, but something less than you would expect for an apartment complex of that size, a development with 200 some odd units. So the way that I would do it is a requirement that prior to the issuance of the CO, that I believe that one is the right in, right out, or is that the full intersection? That the full intersection be constructed and prior to the issuance of the CO, and be constructed to the standards required by town staff for the 200-unit project.
Good.
Similarly, I think and just trying to work through the conditions that the applicant has graciously agreed to comply with. There's that one, and then as to the buffer parcel, because I believe those are owned by the same entity as well, there would need to be a document of record recorded, reserving that in its vegetative state, save and except, minor modifications for essential and necessary utilities to service the 200-unit development, with that being recorded prior to the issuance of the CO, and with those rights being held by someone other than the owner of that 2.1 acre parcel, so long as it's the same property owner, so they can't just amend them later. I'm not sure if they've talked to the Hampton Lake Community Association about the donation of that parcel. That's outside the purview of this committee at the moment. But it's just about making sure that those documents are of record and provided to staff for full review prior to the CO.
And that can be worked out between now and final DRC, I would imagine.
I believe so.
Again, if I'm not trying to speak for any of us, just if that's the path we go, that's what would have to, we could protect that land and we could require that entrance.
And I believe that, and the applicant may have some comments or some suggestions on how to move that through or expedite that to give staff the opportunity to review it before final development plan, so it's not something that staff's trying to review while they are doing their, trying to get the CO as well, so.
And I would just, on one other subject, and it's not necessarily involving you, just to commission and to staff, one of the concerns I have are some of the developments that we've approved in the past that have all of a sudden become gated, fully gated communities. I think, and I don't know the exact direction to go on this, but I think we might want to have a condition or a direction to staff that it must not be completely gated. I mean, I don't think we have a problem if it's partially gated, but there has to be a thorough fair somewhere through that.
Yes, that's been discussed, and we've discussed that with the applicant as well, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've made those comments that it had shown that there was emergency access, but the intent, that was for, with the applicant just showing access to that Hall Road, but since this is a full movement at that intersection, it will be opened, and I understand your partial gating of certain areas maybe. That's a possibility if they so choose, but the access movement from Hampton Lake over to that intersection would be there.
Because, and the reason for this, just because of everybody in here, is we have a clear direction from council to have frontage roads, to have feeder roads that go along our major arteries. So when we're approving something, not only are we looking for two entrances, but we're looking for a way, if there's an accident on the main road, to get through and get where you need to go.
Yes.
So.
Lydia?
Has the second access point already been designed in and approved for the other parcel? Engineered, designed, gone through all of the
For the,
process?
what do you mean the other parcel?
The one to the east.
Oh, it is in permitting right now. That's for the Hall Road that they are looking to do.
I mean,
so-
the permanent, full access.
They'll have to modify.
I'm
It'll
not
have to-
comfortable approving this plan without it being designed.
So here's what will happen. This still has to go it has to go through stormwater. It has to go to DHEC, which is probably right now running on 8 months of a review time. So for limits of disturbance, once they show that it's clearly established and they start going through their DHEC process, they'll have ample time to actually design the roadway. And from a final development plan, the plan will not be approved by the UDO administrator until that is taken care of. So.
Until that road is designed.
Yes, design reviewed and then eventually.
As part of this parcel though, or as part of the other parcel?
It'll be part of this project. So it can be over the parcel lines, because.
Right, but I mean, it's gonna happen on this property.
Yes,
They're not doing it for the other.
it will connect, and there'll be, so the apartment complex and the adjacent property will come together, and then it'll shoot up to the,
I just thought I maybe heard them say that they were going to
so again,
do it
from
as
a,
part of the other construction.
No.
No.
so from a development plan standpoint, again, you're gonna have an access point here, and then the road this portion of roadway will then come up to the parkway. So there will be a road that will kind of come through this development, and I'm kind of just taking Dan's thunder here. So the site that's in question is the entire area running all the way to Buckwalter Parkway. And as Mr. Reed stated, and we have received the intent to annex, and town council has moved forward. So the applicant has portions, this will all come to you very soon, portions of the Grandy Oaks development that they're looking to annex into the town as they start to move forward with a larger master plan for the areas to the east of this property.
No new residential on that.
Yes, that is correct. There's no new residential associated with the annexation request.
So, just for my own clarity, when they submit for the stormwater permit, it will have the correct limit of disturbance that includes the access road.
The limits of disturbance, just where it's going to be, it's almost block level, and then as they move forward with that final development plan, that's where your construction documents get to that final 100% review. Right now, it's only at 60, 65%. So they will have the time to be able to fully design the access road and connection to the parkway.
And before we see it.
Yeah, and we also said, or one of the conditions would be, they couldn't have CO if that road's not done.
Yes,
So no matter what, they can't be operational until that road's done.
yes.
I just want to make sure it's done to the right design, that's all.
Well, it'll go through, yeah. Kevin will make sure,
Yes.
And Heather.
And everyone else.
Heather scares me more than Kevin.
You should.
Yeah.
okay.
I'm curious if
Wait,
the,
can you let
sorry.
other people go?
No,
Yeah.
we've addressed the questions that I've had with
You're
that
good?
road. Yeah,
Okay.
That's definitely is probably the only concern that I have on that right now.
Thank you. Now, Charlie?
I just want to follow up on something you brought up earlier. Would the applicant be willing to move the dumpster enclosure further away from the Hampton Lake proper area? Up towards Buckwalter Park or Bluffton Parkway more? You see what I'm talking about, Josh? Just move it up more towards Bluffton, or Bluffton Parkway, sorry.
I was just gonna say, fellas.
I'm Josh Tiller with JK Tiller Associates.
What's your address?
Good evening. Yeah, nobody likes to be near the dumpster, whether you're living on property or off property. We kind of place it there because it was at a corner of a building. It's not impacting, it's kind of the lowest impact on the residents in this new community and adjacent. We could move it closer to the parkway, but then we get into issues with seeing it from the parkway. So we felt this was the best location. We can slide it further north, maybe closer to that garage structure there.
I just, hearing some concerns in the room and trying to address them and kind of push it a little bit further away, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of compromise.
Those compactors are contained. They don't leak. They pick them up. There's no leakage on them.
Yeah, they're tight doors, and you just pop the door open, put your stuff in, close it, and it automatically.
And the concierge people are going to be doing
I was gonna say,
Most
because
likely.
if it's just left up to the residents, you're gonna get trash left outside, so they need concierge service.
Thanks.
If I may, and I don't think you necessarily need to. You don't necessarily need to make that as a condition. We can just, on a staff level, we can work with the applicant on that.
That's fine.
Sure. Just for the public comment that we did have, can you talk us through what, I think we're pretty much as far forward as we're allowed to be on the site, but can you just walk us through what that buffer is between, what the kind of site constraints are in terms of where the buildings need to be, and what those setbacks and buffers are?
Clarification for our
Yeah.
public comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Probably the one with the power lines.
I had mentioned that,
There you go.
yeah, this shows the overhead power lines. What it doesn't show is the easement line, and the easement line runs roughly right across, 10 feet at the most from the building line. I think they could probably do in about.
It's actually, the buildings are 20 feet from that.
From the power line.
From the power line, for the power line.
So it's outside of the easement. We're further.
Want to come up to the microphone and please, so everybody can hear you?
So what we have right now is, for constructability, we've put the buildings as close as we can to the power lines for people to actually physically build them for OSHA regulations and everything. So we can't really push the buildings any further to the north. It's well outside the easement, but it's just due to those high voltage power lines and having stuff, having someone on scaffolding next to power lines probably ain't very good, so not recommended.
And can you just confirm the, bottom setback by the garages, just for the record?
There is.
Or there is none?
There's.
Or are you off of the property line?
If I were to
It's about 10 feet.
Okay.
say 10 feet from,
We
the
have
garages are about 10
10
feet to the
2.1
property
acres.
line, and then you got, that meandering kind of buffer.
That buffer is minimum 50 feet. It goes from 50 to 70 feet. It's 1,280 feet long, but it's 50 to 70 feet, and then you got a setback.
Yeah.
And what were the number of residential units you could have converted to on this property? Wasn't it about 250 initially? And you're building 200 in this plan?
Yeah, we had the ability, the zoning is 16 dwelling units per acre.
You want to step up and speak in the mic, please?
It's actually 16 dwelling units per acre is what we can do. So on a 20-acre site, like 300 units, we're at 200.
Great. Any other issues anyone wants to discuss? Because the monitors keep going out.
Yeah.
Must be time.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm working on a motion for y'all.
You're working on a motion,
If
great.
you would, that I can present based off of the feedback that I've heard, then that's okay.
Go for it.
All right. If you'll just, if you'd be kind enough to give me about 30, 45 seconds.
34.
While he's doing that, I do want to mention one thing, because this question has come up before, and I just want to make sure I understand it correctly, and we all do. So for example, Hampton Lake proper was permitted for 1,450 approximately units. 1,350 got built there. Those extra 100 units could technically be moved somewhere else in the Buckwalter PUD. In this case, this is a commercial conversion. I'm trying to be simple on it.
Hold on. I see where you're going, and let me
Go
stop
ahead.
you, and then we'll give you a little lesson here. So, the way that the PUDs are set up with the development agreement, there's an overall amount of dwelling units and acreage. So, Mr. Reed, or the Reed Group, owns an allotment of RDUs, and he has the ability to move those RDUs anywhere he wants to in the Buckwalter development agreement, as well as commercial acreage. So the land use showed on there as that neighborhood commercial. So he has an allocation of rights. He could have used his commercial development rights on that property, or he could use his residential dwelling units on that property. The conversions have already happened, so there's no more conversions of commercial rights to residential rights that are allowed in the Buckwalter PUD. So he has a bank of units, and all the properties that he owns, and then he can move them to these properties how he so chooses. And in this case, he's taking those dwelling units that he has in his bank, and he's applying them to this property.
Yeah.
So, does that help?
Yeah.
It's complicated.
And he could have done up to 300, and he did 200.
Potentially, yes.
Theoretically.
Theoretically, yes.
And it could be commercial buildings that were,
Could have been commercial buildings. We had numerous meetings of individuals speculating on things. So, are you ready?
Thanks, Zach.
Okay.
enough time?
Did I fill enough? Give you plenty of time.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, just to be clear, the two conditions that we're looking at have to do with the full intersection, the secondary means of access, and then the second.
Take this off so people are not confused. We'll just leave the image.
And the second one has to do with the 2.1 acre parcel to the south and retaining a vegetative buffer on that through deed restriction or conveying it as open space to the association.
Before you go further.
Yes, ma'am.
Can that even be part of, this application, because it's a different property.
So both of these conditions are being imposed as, they are on different parcels that are not the subject of this application. However, the applicant is on record saying as the property owner of those two adjacent parcels that they will take.
But I'm just saying, he didn't have to do that because that's not part of this property.
I think the applicant is being very clear that he's under no obligation to do anything as to the 2.1 acre parcel.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear that.
Yes, ma'am. No, the applicant has voluntarily agreed to these, not necessarily precisely my wording, and there may be an objection there if it's of some concern, but I believe this is consistent with what I've heard tonight. So my recommended motion would be to approve with the following conditions. First, that prior to the issuance of any CO on the property, that a full access intersection at the northeast corner of the site where the temporary haul road currently intersects with the property be constructed to the standards required by staff and any and all local or state standards. And two, that prior to the final development plan approval, applicant will subject the 2.1 acre parcel located to the south of the site to restrictive covenants designed to limit any disturbance and preserve the existing vegetation to the maximum extent possible, provide the same for staff review and approval, subject to reasonable modifications for utilities.
motion.
Can I ask a question? Sure. Do we need, I know that they need the road by CO, but do we not need to see that design as part of final development plan? Or are we saying it will be after that?
It should come through one of the development plans.
So
I mean,
should that be
they're
part
gonna-
of the condition?
Final, right?
Instead of it just, the condition only being that it's constructed by then? Does it need to be part of the?
But it might be part of the other property, right?
Well, I think the concern from what I'm hearing tonight is if it was not a condition of CO, in theory, it could be, that master plan could just have a terminus right there, or the development plan could have the terminus without that, the extension ever being finalized or completed. So the idea is to try to put that into place to be to incentivize the actual construction and development of that road, while also not necessarily requiring the applicant revise completely their plan that is before you tonight.
But I guess what I'm asking is, do they have to revise it before final? Like, is the condition that it's designed as part of this entire application process, or
For
is it
the
just
final
that it is
DRC.
constructed?
Designed and built before CO. I don't know if it would be designed before final. But you could never get the CO without
Signed
it.
during the final development plan process.
So when it comes to final development plan, it will have that design?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. On that, do we have any further discussion?
Make a motion for adjournment?
Second?
Any further discussion on that? No? All in favor?
Aye.